This is the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast, Episode 3. Recorded this one with Bradley Bishop and Jeffrey Charles towards the start of the year. So we speak a little bit about the material that the comedians are doing, and I think you'd be happy to know that now that they've turned those into jokes, so you can come and watch them perform material that they talk about in this episode at any of the open mics in Canberra. Before we get into it, speaking of open mics in Canberra, we've got a few gigs coming up around the Canberra scene. So on the 25th of September, you've got Boardwalk in Belconnen from 8 o'clock. Next month at the start, you've got open mic at Treehouse in the city from 8 o'clock. Obviously, as you all know, we got the basement on the 15th of October from 8 p.m. So come on down to any of those ones, and for now we'll crank out the next episode of the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks everybody for your feedback over the first 2 episodes. Only going to get bigger and better, so thank you. Tonight I'm at the basement with some of the local comedians. I've got
Jeffrey Charles
and
Bradley Bishop.
That's it, boys. I had Bill Macon for the Board Certified podcast. I know that you've got a podcast as well. What's that one called?
I've got 2.
Jeffrey?
Yes. Thanks. I got 2. So one's called First Impressions.
Yep.
Where it's kind of like I do bad impressions with my super talented brother-in-law, Tony.
Yep.
And I've got another one that I haven't updated in ages called the Jeffrey Charles Podcast, which is just me basically driving around in my car talking to myself.
That was the, you just kind of coined it to get the name so that no one took it, eh? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't coined for quality.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, you just get the placeholder in there. And what about yourself, man? Have you done any podcast stuff before?
This is, you guys are taking my podcast virginity, so
cool,
you'll
man.
have to take it gentle. Although I did go to an all-boys school, as you guys know, so I can take it rough. I think.
yeah, exactly. Man.
Right.
Well, like,
oh god.
Yeah, here I was about to be gentle with it, but let's go for gold, Jeffrey.
Around, we're getting straight in.
I think that perhaps I would have put Bradley in the middle.
I can take it in the end. It's all right.
Bradley in the middle. It sounds like a really bad 90s sitcom.
It does.
Yeah, it's like exactly. But so you guys have from the comedy scene. You're here to perform later on tonight. We're recording this before the first ever basement open mic. Figured it was a good opportunity to use the stage and use the lighting and everything while we had it booked. So you guys are about to be on the first ever open mic at the basement, and I mean that means a lot to me also to have people actually rocking up to these things. It's good to have local comedians hanging out and doing podcasts and doing comedy. How long you guys starting with you, man? How long you been doing comedy for?
I think I started mid-2013.
Yep.
So I started back in Sydney, and I did some open mics. I started at the Mug and Kettle, which was a former room in Glebe, and then I had kids at the end of that year. So I've been sort of on and off for a couple of years, and I've done a couple of shows back in Sydney. And since moving to Canberra, I started doing the open mic scene in Canberra mid-2018.
Sick. Yeah, man. And what about yourself, Brad?
I first started in 2015. Just did a few open mics in Canada. I was living in Vancouver.
Yep.
And the bar that I was working with had some open mic nights on there. And I ended up getting pissed with a bunch of the comedians afterwards and just telling stories about my travels. And they were like, why the fuck don't you do this? And then I was like, I've never even thought of doing it, and did 3 over there. And then just had like a bit of a hiatus off it. Always wanted to get back into it, but just with different jobs that I had, I always found it hard to get time. But
yeah, okay.
Last year, I just with the job that I've got now, it freed up my night time, so I've been able to commit to it more over the past 9 months.
That's definitely one of those things, hey, like you gotta... I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts, and a lot of them say that some of the problem is like your day job gets in the way. Like you can't commit to it if you're working night shifts constantly or whatever.
Yeah,
exactly. I forgot who said it. But yeah, it was like one of the comedians that I listened to basically just said like, you're not going to be famous while you're doing night shift at Burger King.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, so that's how it goes, and it's also another thing is like you got to commit to it if you want to do it. Like about the confidence on stage and all that sort of stuff. Like getting laughs is all about your body language as well as what you say.
It's performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, like presence can really make up for, like, if your joke skills aren't as sharp, but you have like good stage presence, you can kind of get away with
exactly
certain stuff.
You're
that's
like
coming
proof
straight
of
out
that.
straight out of me. Dude. Like,
That's right.
I've got poor joke writing, but just a lot of charisma. Talk about wearing slippers or some shit. People be like, "What the fuck?"
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, man. Look, it's like, I mean, I think with us, all three of us have like at least some things in common, and that's like we've all told stories on stage.
Yeah.
We have some observational humour, things like that. I think that they're fairly staple like subjects to have in the comedy scene, like your observational and your story. There's also like your one-liners and stuff, but I think that's more of a niche. I think that
Yeah, I agree that I think it is more of a niche thing as well. And just like on my experience with like comedy and stuff, I'm still trying to find my comedic style, being so young to it, or so new to it, I should say. There's so many different people that I look at, like some of the pros who I wish that, like, you could like take a little bit from them. It's like, I wish I could be angry like Bill Burr.
Yeah.
But like when I get angry, people are like, why is he being a dick for?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
man.
Like, why is he saying like misogynistic things, or why is he saying like certain, like, I don't know, or just whatever it could be, like, you know what I mean? Like if I try to do it in their style, it never kind of works out.
Dude, that's exactly the same, man. Like, I draw a lot of inspiration from Bill Burr, but that's because of like him, I'm also a psycho. Like I also have that. Like he always says, like people walk around as a 2 out of 10 angry, and like they feel a little bit uncomfortable or whatever. He's like, me getting out of bed, nothing bad's happened. I'm like already at 6. It's just he's kind of, I don't know he said that like in some of his recent podcasts that he's working on it and stuff like that, but it's like it just takes that little thing to like, and I think that he bring like his stage, and to be honest, man, like after listening to his podcast after years, I think that like his stage persona, and like he's not actually a bad, like some people
he's a really
some people
nice
just
guy.
some
It's
people
shtick,
just,
it's
he's
shtick,
like such a he's like, some people see the like his stage presence. Like I've showed people, oh, you got to see this guy Bill Burr. It's like awesome, and a lot of people are like, oh man, he's so angry. It's just like if you listen to his podcast, you get to know his personality. He's actually a sweetheart, but like that's how he portrays his jokes in that sense.
Yeah, that's like kind of his style. Is like he's worked on the angry guy.
He's got that manic energy.
Yeah,
and I think that's the kind of
That's
kind of thing, like because I think it is his past to an extent.
Exactly.
But
if you watch F is for Family, that's loosely based on the 70s that he remembers, and it's
totally. And I think also because I'm also a fellow listener of his podcast and for quite a while. And I've been lucky enough to see him live too, and he's incredible. Yeah,
I haven't seen him live yet. He's on my like goal list of
he's amazing.
comedians to see live.
Yeah, like.
Dude, imagine having to follow that guy.
Oh man,
so
Bill Burr just destroys a room, then they call you out. You're like,
well, man,
fuck.
he told me that. Oh, so he didn't tell me. I feel like
didn't he call you out on the last podcast?
Yeah, man. He's just like, hey, man, if you're listening, I just thought I'd let you know.
Mark, I know you're out there. Podcast.
Likewise, though, I'm just saying, hey, Bill, man, thanks for listening to my podcast. I just thought I'd let you know. Just thought I'd give you a quick name drop there, man. Hope the new special sells well. So in one of the previous podcasts that I listened to, he was basically saying that in some of the early days of comedy, he had to follow some of the big names that were just drop-ins for the night. So he was at a venue, and it was like one after the other. So it was like, I think the last two before he went on, it was like Dave Chappelle. And then the crowd's like, can this get any better? And they're like, next up, we've got a guest that you guys probably wouldn't have expected. This next guy, massive in the scene. You might have known him from his hit TV series Seinfeld. Here's Jerry Seinfeld. And and then the way that Bill said that he cut it when he goes, because he had to go out after that, he just walks out and he's like, yeah, that's right, folks. This is what you're paid for. Like, you got that as a bonus. Now back to reality.
Old Freckles.
Yeah, old Freckles. Man,
I love his self-deprecating.
Man, I
type of
absolutely
humour.
feed off that, man.
I think a lot of people kind of do, like audience members. If you are more inclined to rip on yourself, they feel a little bit safer because it's you saying it.
Yeah,
That's one thing
definitely.
I've noticed, like, when I like to try tackle controversy on stage, you have to really hit the nail on the head, and, like, you work that out during open mics and what works and what doesn't. But not to say that it's safer, but I feel like people get a better reaction if you're just ripping on yourself, or if you're making fun of yourself.
Oh, definitely. Like, I think
absolutely.
if you... Yeah, I know literally, like, we're on a stage right now and we're actually above them. But, like, if you purport to be above the audience, then you're going to look like an asshole. Whereas I think, if you go hard at yourself, I think it opens it up.
Yeah, it brings you down to their level. Like, when you go up there, they sometimes might say you as the guy that's up on the stage. But if you just basically, without saying it directly, that I'm just like you guys...
Yeah.
Makes you more relatable. Now, some acts are different, though. They actually want to... They'll put themselves at a higher level. I don't know, like, after they've been doing it for a while, they can do that. Like, if you're doing crowd work or whatever, you want to display that, like, that I'm a professional and I can do this. You know, you might have something to show by being like, I can do anything with anyone ever says. But if you're like, I'm just like all of you... then they might be like, well, how's he going to pull this off then? If he's like me, I can't do it, so how's he going to?
I think comedy has to be genuine. Like, and I think you've got to be genuine to... I mean, obviously, it's not always true because, you know, we're creating scenarios and metaphors and so forth in order to convey what we want to convey. And to your point earlier, Bradley, where you were saying, like, you know, you want to bring forward a challenging idea, so you're going to probably, you know, bring yourself down so that you can put forward that, you know, that argument and that narrative. But I saw... I guess I'm just purporting that I'm basically like a comedy fan here, but
yeah, we get it. You can afford tickets.
Yeah, all right, okay. Look, I'm rich. It's this is how it is. I do this for fun. But I saw Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, you don't do this for the money?
No,
Man.
no, definitely not.
Anyway, so you've seen Seinfeld?
So I saw Seinfeld when he toured, and it was, you know, it was not cheap. Like, and it was really good. Like, I knew I was going to see Jerry Seinfeld, so I was going to see that style and whatever. But he, you know, he was doing a 20,000 seat stadium, and I was like, you know, I was watching him on a screen.
Yeah,
like it was like, you know, watching a little ant Seinfeld, and yeah, like you know, he didn't go like, you know, I'm just all like you. It was like watching a god down there.
Yeah,
like, you know,
I think at that point he is though. Like,
the thing that amazes me about him is how he just does it so cleanly. Like,
yeah,
not only in terms of his delivery. He's clean, like he never swears.
Dude,
I swear before I even know that I'm coming out. People are like, stop swearing. I'm like, what the fuck you talking about, cunt?
Yeah, dude,
you just swore 3 times.
Man,
it's part of your vernacular.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh man, like I said, like if anyone's seen on my Facebook page, I uploaded a video of when I went down to Melbourne. And the funny thing, I did a few mics when I was in Melbourne last year, and man, I went to this one mic, apartment comedy, and the place is laid out like it's got, like it's an apartment, it's got a bathroom, which is the stage, like there's a bathtub behind you while you're on stage, yeah,
Wow.
and like, you know, it's got like the dining room and the bar and the other things, and like, I didn't know where I was on the sign-up sheet, because I went in, signed up, and then a different dude that did the sign-up was the MC. So I sat in the front row because I didn't know when I was going to be called, yeah? Mm. So the MC, which is good banter, was just doing all of his crowd work on me because I was, like, in the front row. Yeah. And I'm copping it the whole time, and he doesn't know that I'm getting up later. So, yeah, I get to the point where it's like the MC calls my name, and then the dude that he's been riffing on the whole time stands up. The crowd's already like, oh, shit. I grab the mic, and that's when the video starts. It's just me grabbing the mic saying, all right, it's my turn, motherfuckers. And then that's the video on my Facebook page that you see after that.
Yeah.
And, man, it's the first time my mum's ever seen me do comedy. Was that video when I was, like, hot.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want to support your comedy, but I just couldn't get through it. There was too much swearing. And I was like, oh, Mum, look, it's not all like that, you know. But, yeah, it's just sometimes you'll just... if I come in hot, I'll swear more. If I'm hitting a subject that I really want to like drive home, I'll swear inadvertently just because I'm proving a point. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to keep it clean.
I don't swear on stage.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like, I mean, because I guess I've got I teach as a day job and I've got kids as well. So I think, not that precludes you from swearing, because I there's occasions where I swear in my personal life, but I think I had to kind of like make those choices early on because I started doing comedy when I was already working full time in a career. And So
that was I guess you got to make choices based around that.
And like the positive thing is you have a career, whereas people like me, they're like, dude, you're a fucking idiot.
Well, I've got it for now.
Go say whatever the fuck you want
proves,
on stage.
Man, it's like
that's true.
if you want to be able to afford to see Seinfeld, become a teacher, man.
Well, yeah,
it's not hard.
It's got its positives. Good holidays. So.
Yeah. Well, you're on holidays at the moment, aren't you?
That's it, baby.
Yeah.
So.
That's the dream.
That's what's up, man. Like, to be honest, I remember when I was in school, like, we all remember school, like, dude, when you were at school, did you ever go like, oh man, I'd hate to be this teacher, and now you are?
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah, it's sort of, I just fell into it. Like, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
You started off as friends, and then you just became...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know, yeah. No,
I didn't expect
really,
to fall madly in
love. No, I just, it was one of those things, like, I settled. I think I settled, I settled with teaching. No, I really enjoy it. Like, it's great fun, but I literally had the marks to go and do law, and I didn't, and then I really regretted that for a little while. But then over time, I'm really happy with it now. Okay. But there was a period, and that's actually when I started doing stand up, where I was like, I think I'd taught for like 5-6 years, and I was really like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. Yeah. And then I was about to apply for the Masters of Law or whatever, and retrain as a lawyer. Yeah. And my dad's a lawyer, so that's probably part of. I'm like following Hamlet's ghost or whatever, doing that, and then and last literary illusion, and then somebody said, oh, have you ever thought of doing stand up? Because I was like, I'd always be cracking jokes in the class just to get through and cracking jokes.
Test material.
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got like, definitely. Like, you don't make your whole teaching career material, but there's definitely times teachers do it all the time. Yeah. All the time, and I think a lot of them are just unaware that they're doing it. But yeah, because you're teaching Romeo and Juliet for like the 15th time or whatever, and you're just like, oh, yeah. And then you're gonna go, oh, yeah, what do you think about, And then you just go into that mode. So
just start riffing because you're sick of your material.
I don't have a serious bone in my body, and another reason I don't think I could be a teacher is because there would be kids out there that are 100% smarter than what I am. I'd be paranoid that I'd be writing something on the board and I'd just misspell it. They'd just be calling me out and they're like, hey, that's not how you spell that word.
I do that.
Yeah, dude, I remember that happened to teachers all the time at school, and like some little nerd like points out that he misspelt something.
Yeah, dude.
But like thinking back now, it's like, he had a bender on the weekend. Like, leave the man alone.
He's got to put up with your own...
He's having a calm down right now.
He's
teaching Pythagoras' theorem. He's like, fuck, dude.
It's a triangle.
He can't spell hypotenuse. Give the man a break, dude.
Man, we had a substitute teacher from Romania, and dude, it was just, we would just constantly, like, the class would, because automatically, and you'd know from school, man, like, you get a sub, it's like, all right, we can chill. Like, oh, thanks, miss. Last class for the day. I'm pretty keen to relax. I'm glad you could come in and help me do that, And we'd have students that would say, I went to a pretty rough school. And this substitute teacher from Romania is, like, trying to teach us chemistry and stuff like that. And one of the kids just goes, Miss, do you believe in Dracula?
That's awesome. Yeah.
And instead of just brushing it off, like most teachers be like, have you got your book out? No, well, like, get your book out, that's what you'd normally do. Well, like, we used to get dudes in class that would be like, yeah, I've got my book, miss, but I haven't got a pen. How do you expect me to write this if you don't give me a pen? Like, you get, like, feedback like that to the teachers, people just riffing on them.
We used to
like, your lace is undone. Like, just people riffing on the teacher. Anyway, it's like heckling, basically. So, like, she fully goes into, like, look, Dracula was based on Vlad Tepes. Vlad Tepes was an actual guy. and gave us.
Good guy.
He was a good
He did good things, bad things. He impaled people.
She used to call Golo the supermarket. Like, she was kind of a little bit not, like, adhered to our culture.
No.
So she goes into the full, like,
Oh, no.
everything, and basically goes through this whole thing, and the dude just goes, yeah, so do you reckon he's real, miss? After the whole explanation. And she sort of just goes, get on with your work sort of thing. After the full explanation, she stopped. She realised that we're just fucking with her. And substitute goes away after, like, the next time we had that class, it was with our actual teacher. Teacher goes, oh, so how was the sub? Same dude just goes, oh, miss, yeah, is something wrong? Like, we said Dracula wasn't real, and she cried and left.
Yeah. I had a class that used to play April Fool's pranks on me, like in the first school
yeah.
I taught it, which
And
was
it
a small
September,
school.
which was the most confusing.
Yeah.
Get off the acid, kids.
Oh, yeah.
They just hadn't changed the calendar on the wall.
We had, we used to torment this one math teacher that we had, and we were probably I was year 8, I think, at this time, and that's when, like, Nokia's just started getting, like, that polyphonic ringtone.
Oh, yeah.
So we'd get one of the other students' glasses case, and he would put his polyphonic ringtone in that glasses case, and then he'd get somebody to call it, and he'd have it on loud. And the polyphonic ringtone was push-up, like...
Yeah.
So anyway, like, we'd move this glasses case from just table to table and, like, call it. And he'd come running over to your table and he'd be like, you young man, like, I know it's you. And he'd, like, make you get up and empty your pockets. But we're all so clued on, right? So, like, I give my phone to Jeffrey when I get the glasses case, right? So then as soon as he comes over harassing me, I'm like, dude, I don't even have a phone. Like, what are you talking about? And he never noticed that this little glasses case was getting moved. Dude, we'd fuck with him all the time, sing happy birthday every day to, like, somebody else.
That's happened to me.
Oh, dude, kids are such shit.
Kids are horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like, I remember we had a substitute teacher maths class where it was like you couldn't leave until you've done your work, even if it was like lunch or whatever. Like, I was in that class with all the, like, ADD kids. Like, I was one of the ADD kids that would just be in the group with all the other ones.
Yeah, just licking your elbow and
Yeah,
just
just
like, Mark, do the equations.
Like,
Oh,
no,
sorry.
it was legit.
It's
Like,
a great elbow, though.
It tastes good. I think it's mustard.
I would constantly just get report cards that were just like, we know he can do this. He just doesn't want to, and he gets distracted so easily. I've always liked making people laugh. And class to me was the ultimate stage.
Yeah,
just making people laugh and being the class clown. Like that group, like that class was basically a super group of all the class clowns, and I was the class clown of that class.
Dude, in special ed as well, they're just, like, so kind. Like, they get the kindest people on the planet.
Dude, I
to
wasn't
teach
in, like, special ed. I was
And
like,
those kids are
I was like, yeah, it was like at this point,
like 9-7 maths or whatever.
Yeah, it's like it's like they don't do A B C D, but, like, if they did, it would be the F, like, class. Yeah.
You know what you were doing? You were emceeing that class.
I was emceeing that class. Yeah.
Just
You're like,
getting
hey, how's it going?
practice.
Yeah.
Like, there's
So-
a show coming
How
up
about
at the
Matt?
basement in about 7 years.
There you guys. Check me out. I'll be at the basement third
You
Tuesday
might not
of
recognise me,
every
I'll
month.
have a beard.
Yeah, man. Just picture me with, like, a beard third Tuesday of every month in 2019.
Yeah, so how about maths? Huh?
Yeah. What's the deal with math? So
Yeah.
you were saying you used to get April Fool's jokes.
Oh, yeah,
What was one that you had, man?
They did one where they turned the clocks, like, forward. So it was like, it's a bad habit. Like, I don't wear a watch, and this was, I think that I just didn't carry my phone with me or whatever. I didn't have it with me. So they
didn't want to see what pole phone you had. So
Oh no,
just,
no.
keep it from
Literally, the first time I had this piece
No,
of crap.
but you remember, right?
Yeah.
When you're in school, you don't want them to judge you. So you I would.
Or don't become a teacher, basically.
No,
yeah.
so no, but like what I mean is like if from a student's point of view, we'd pick at the weak point. So if you pull him out, if he pulls out like an iPhone 5S, you're like, oh, sir, not paying you enough. So like, you don't carry your phone so that they can't possibly criticize that thing.
Although that happened because I left. I had some piece of crap Nokia because I'm a cheapskate, and I left it in the room, and this this science teacher, Craig. He was just like, this isn't a real phone. He literally chucked it in the bin, and one of the kids really kindly took it out and go, "Here's your phone, sir." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, Craig threw it in the bin," and I was just like, "What the hell?" So then I stopped taking it to class. Now they turned the clocks forward, and I just let him out. Like, so I was just like, "Oh wow, jeez." I'm like,
so they only moved it forward like 15 minutes or
something like that. Yeah, it was like 20 minutes. Yeah,
Like
it wasn't a full.
completely
Yeah, if it was a full hour, of course. Yeah, I'd just think of that because like, no, they've moved
See,
it
they
forward.
didn't get greedy.
Yeah. Well, no, but it was full hour. That'd be the end of the period. I'd be like, "What?" I'd walk in. I'd be like, "Oh wow, it's 3:15." Like,
quick.
no, so it was something. It must have been half an hour.
Yeah.
I've pretty much blacked out most of that first year of teaching because it was so bad. But yeah, like they just did that to me. There was another time where they stole all the markers. So like they went into the room in advance because I wouldn't take whiteboard markers with me. They just have them in the room. And the etiquette is like you leave them for the next teacher, etc. Don't mess up the room, all that kind of stuff, which barely anyone adheres to. But anyway.
You do.
And
You're like the good guy teacher.
Well, I was.
Over.
Yeah, and like, yeah, exactly. That was me pretty much. Just a loser. And then they took all the markers, and I'm like, "Where are the markers?" And they're like, "April Fools." I'm like, "You're tickets." So yeah, I think there's another one where like I think I lost it at this class, like because like they were just so bad, and I didn't realize they just didn't want to work.
Yeah,
like it wasn't. I think it was my first full-time job, and I didn't realize like there were probably 10% of the class who really wanted to do well, and the other 90% were just like, whatever,
I was the 90%, but I could have been the 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could, if I wanted to, I would have been in the ones that did well. I just didn't have the attention span.
Yeah, if I liked the subject, I did well at it. If I didn't, I would just draw in the back of the book.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, I won't disturb you from your shitty teaching, but I have no interest in what you're talking about. So I'm just going to sit out the back here. I'm going to draw some shit. And come the end of semester, I'm going to probably get a C. I'm going to wing it. I'm going to study for like 5 minutes. And you know what?
That was
I'll
me,
be
man.
good.
Take that C, walk away.
Straight
Yeah.
C's. Dude, the worst thing is if I sat next to someone that I wanted to talk to, man, I get distracted. Like, dude, I remember when I was in primary school, they sat me next to the smart kid, and I brought his grades down. Like, they thought it would bring me up because he was under specific instructions to not talk to me. I was at the end of the row. He was next to me. Don't talk to him. He'll try and talk to you. Just ignore it. It was like I was like Medusa. Don't look.
Like,
Don't look him in the eye. You'll become entranced.
did he have a shield just randomly?
Yeah, he's just like looking at the reflection, and the weird owls flying around. That weird.
That's a very strange school.
I had some friends that did some. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh no, it was Clash of the Titans was the punchline. Never mind.
Academic Titans.
Had some friends at school who were the year above me, and they were some genuine like characters, man. They were always taking the piss. And when we got to year 11 and 12, we'd get study periods or free periods, and he'd get a free period, and they've gone across the road and they've gone to like a butcher. They ended up getting a bunch of seafood and like fish, and they had these. It looks like shredded newspaper roof, and you can just like push it up.
Yeah. Particle board news.
Yeah.
This is like got asbestos in it.
So he's
It's like, was it a public school?
No, it was a private school.
No, maybe it didn't have asbestos.
No,
I'm not used to not having asbestos in my classrooms.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that asbestos makes you learn better.
Oh man,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard
I've done the field work and it does not.
It was in the water system as well.
Just gives you a weird
It was
cough.
just everywhere.
Yeah, it just gives you a weird cough. Yeah. Anyway,
So they've thrown this fish like as far as he could, and then he's thrown another one as far as he could. And our school was divided into like house groups. So like this was one specific house where they'd done this in. And every time you'd walk into that corridor, you'd be like, what the fuck is that smell?
Yeah.
But they did it like a week before school holidays. So then we went away for 2 weeks. So then when we came back after that 2 weeks, the smell of fish was just like heinous. And teachers were freaking out. They're like, where the fuck is that smell coming from? So they're making kids like evacuate their lockers, like take shit out, like trying to look for it. And they had no idea. They couldn't find this fish for weeks until like I think one of the cleaners was just like, I think that they've put it in the roof. And I was just like,
oh man,
like that's such a spiteful little prank. But like every time I walked in there, like it smelled so bad, but a part of me just pissed myself laughing because I was like, devious.
That's terrible. I was a housemaster or like year master at one of the schools.
It's like the teacher equivalent of a dungeon master.
I don't know how to. Yeah, I'm
Like
like.
for Dungeons and
Oh,
Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. I thought you meant. I was just like, I don't know if I should keep talking.
Yeah, no. It's,
Come on, man. We went through this. He's trying to keep his career.
Good thing I use a pseudonym with photo, as well. No, so there was a locker in one of the rooms, like this homeroom where I taught history to year 9. It's almost always year 9, and this one locker was called the ecosystem. It was a spare one in the room, and they used to just shove like just fruit and food in there, and there was a whole and it was like literally. I have never done a bit on this. I should.
You definitely should.
And like,
man, that's hilarious already.
And at some point over months, like it, just like the fish thing, it really smelled, terrible.
Yep.
And little fruit flies were getting out through the little gap in the lock. And they told, and I'm like, what the hell's with these flies? And they said, oh, sir, it's the ecosystem. I'm like, oh, the ecosystem. And they were like, sir, you're cool. Like, don't tell the other teachers. I'm like, I won't. That's cool. Like, and so eventually, the other guy I was sharing an office with, he goes, oh, people keep complaining about the flies in this room. I'm like, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
He's like, let's go and do it. So then Steve opens up the locker, and then just wave of fruit flies just engulf him. He's like,
Dude,
I'm just like, and I'm having, sorry, I'm just trying to, I'm having to feign shock. I'm like, oh my God. But like, I let those flies like germinate for at least another month. Like, it was
the ecosystem, man.
Yeah,
that's good.
The ecosystem.
I like how the students tricked you into not telling anyone by being like, oh, you're one of the cool, like
man.
they
You're one of us.
they like stroke that.
Yeah, it's
like,
validation. It's validation.
Just
you all want to be validated.
Yeah, every teacher wants to be a cool teacher.
Yeah. It's like I might not have been one of the cool kids when I went to school, but I've come back and now I'm one.
You like selling kids booze, giving them bags.
Well, it was none of that, but yeah, I just kept the ecosystem on the DL.
There was a kid at our school, and he had the most horrific smelling backpack. And every day on the bus, we're like, bro, you fucking stink. And you know when, like, someone becomes so used to the bad smell that they don't smell
Notice
that
it, yeah.
smell? They're just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's just like, he was in denial for months. And we're just like, dude, I guarantee you, it's you that fucking smells.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not me, man. And he's just like, I showered this morning, I put deodorant on. I'm like, something about you, bro, fucking stinks. And we had those multi-layered, like, Christian backpacks for school. So there's, like, 4 fucking compartments. Yeah. And anyway, like, one day he's, like, going through his bag at his locker. We're in the same house. And he pulls out, like, one of those little moves.
Yeah.
And, dude, this flavored move had been in his backpack for honestly months, and it had like curdled, and the smell was like escaping the bottle.
That's horrible.
And he smelt like that for months and had no idea that it was him.
Oh, that's tragic.
Oh, dude, it was like thinking about it now makes me want to fucking project.
Man, that dude is just. That's just some next level, like denial as well. Like just
horrific. Smelling like off milk.
Oh, yeah, flavored off milk.
Flavored off milk.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. That's like next level crazy. Let's we'll wrap it up like with that one.
Something a little bit more positive than flavored milk, boy.
No, man, I love that. You should do a bit on flavored milk, boy. And you've got the ecosystem.
That's right.
I want to hear more on that. But yeah, thanks for coming along and doing the podcast. First ever time at the basement. We got people already rolling up, so we'll wrap it up with that. And you guys, you've got a Facebook and Instagram page, don't you, for your comedy?
Yeah, so I've got on Instagram b.bishopcomedy.
Yep.
I am Jeffrey Charles.
Cool. All right.
With a J.
Right. And you've also got Marky Worthington Comedy on, what have I got? Facebook, Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes for the podcast. Cool.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
And let's see how this first night of comedy goes.
Sounds good.
Cool. Thanks.